Tell me if you've heard this one before. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of chickens being slaughtered. This time over in Japan, 500,000 chickens, egg-laying hens being slaughtered in Hokkaido. Now, we just had a report last week from folks over in Japan saying that they were starting to see that eggs were starting to be rationed. And lo and behold, we suddenly see the mass culling of chickens over there as well. They are expanding the perimeter of where they are doing detections. So they are going to the farms and they're doing spot tests all around that area. This is up in a Hokkaido area in Japan. But they're not alone. Japan is not alone. We are seeing bird flu has returned and it is expanding its impact around the world. We're not seeing the massive numbers that we were seeing at the peak, but we're seeing it building again. We're seeing numbers. Just in March in the United States, 40 flocks have been culled so far in March. That just tells you kind of the direction that this is going. Canada is even worse off. They are reporting bird flu in farms basically daily now. They're seeing them all over the place, and they don't report the cullings like the United States does, but let's just say the numbers are more significant than even the United States, and Canada has a lot less people, a lot less farms there. Japan slaughtered 10 million chickens last year, so this is a big start to their year. The United States, we've slaughtered 53 million in a year and a half. So last year and then kind of half of the prior year, we slaughtered 53 million birds. Over in Europe, 48 million birds. That's UK as well as the EU areas. But we're noticing some trends here once again. Why does it seem like this primarily affects woke and super hyper liberalized countries, and it doesn't seem to impact more conservative countries nearly as much? You go to Europe and the more conservative countries don't seem to be affected nearly as much as the super liberal countries. We find this down in South America too. We have a whole bunch down South America going. We got Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Uruguay, Argentina, and yet no cases in Brazil. It's amazing. It's amazing. Brazil, has very much stepped out of the whole let's collapse our economies in order to save the planet. Let's depopulate the planet so that the animals can be happier. That's that whole woke agenda of one world government and all this kind of stuff like that. Brazil's not on board with that. And consequently, they surprisingly have no cases of bird flu as well. But Steve, we cull all these chickens so that millions and millions more won't just drop dead. Someone should tell the Brazilian chickens that they're supposed to be dropping dead because they're not culling these millions of chickens. We see across the border in more liberal Canada more cases of bird flu. It's miraculous. Bird flu seems to be the most accurate political bellwether out there. It's truly astonishing. Over in China, they don't seem to be having a problem with bird flu. Whereas just over the border in India, they have all sorts of problems in India with bird flu. One country is on board with the globalist agenda, one country's not. Very surprising stuff out there. So India has bird flu, China does not. Europe has bird flu, but Africa doesn't. Wait, they're right next to each other and birds migrate between those two places. How can Africa be having zero problem with bird flu, and yet Europe has such a massive problem with bird flu? It's a wonder to behold. It's hard to imagine, folks, but mark my words, as spring gets kicking here, and as those inspectors feel more comfortable getting out of their office buildings and going and doing spot tests, we're going to find more and more opportunities to test positive people. Find chickens that will test positive to the bird flu. Remember, these are PCR tests. We keep saying this again and again and again. If you test enough birds, about 5% of them, even if they don't have it, about 5% of them will test positive, a false positive. Do they turn around and do the second check? No, they don't. They just go to the chicken owner, the egg producer, the whatever, and they tell them, you have two options here. You can cull your entire flock, and we will reimburse you over market rate for those birds. We'll give you the cash. Just slaughter all your chickens. Bury them. Bury all the eggs. Okay? Or you can just risk everything and just hope that the government is wrong. And if so, then you don't get any money from your insurer. You don't get any money from the government. Tough luck. So what are you going to do as a farmer? Well, obviously you're going to take the money and cull your herd. And of course, they then get this big headline that such and such a farm tests positive for bird flu, and they kill hundreds of thousands of chickens. And so then these guys, just USDA goes out and sets up a perimeter around that farm. Basically you've admitted guilt, so to speak. And so all the farmers around you, and of course the first place they're going to go to are backyard chickens. They've been culling lots of small herds, flocks all over the place. They're going after anyone who's producing their own food. They go after small farmers. They go after small backyard chicken farmers, right? They want to get everybody on board. And they've been putting out stuff about this, about how dangerous it is to have backyard chickens. You can get salmonella from that. Your birds, if they're interacting with other birds, they're not enclosed in a little cage inside of a giant warehouse, then they're going to be unhealthy. They're going to be more likely to get bird flu, and they're going to infect other birds. And this is what we're being told out there. They want to stop people from growing their own food because they need food to be a lever that they can use to kind of control you. And that's what we're seeing out there. Why else would they be so against gardens? Why are they so against people just having some chickens in their backyard? It's crazy, folks. But when people are trying to control you, they say all sorts of crazy things. If you've had people like that in your life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They say all sorts of crazy things in order to just try to get a hold of you. They want to control you. They want you to do all the things that they want you to do. And they'll go to extreme lengths to make it happen. And that's exactly what we see the liberal governments all over the world doing. And we see the governments that are not on board with that just like, hey, we're going to opt out of this. We're just going to not play along. And you see these countries that are not playing along, and it's just mind-boggling to see that they're unaffected by this bird flu. All right, folks, if you found this video to be useful or helpful, you might want to check out this other video from me right over here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar, out.